question mark, I'd like to get started. It's technically open to the public, so here we are. Okay. I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. So welcome, everybody, to the co-op. Obviously, I think people here are very familiar with it. You can kind of see the crowd that's out here. There's some more folks on the other side. Ugh. There you go. Everybody's here. Yeah, packed house. Hopefully that'll change more with time. My name is Coach Ben. I'm here at the Co-op Gaming Arena with UCO Esports, and today I'm going to be talking about anticipation versus reaction, and I actually have a fancy PowerPoint for all that. And hopefully the point of all this is, like, being in person, is that it's an interactive process, right? So let's go ahead and get started. So we have to talk about what anticipating things and reacting to things are before we can really go anywhere. So what's the difference between these two ideas? Anticipation is where, there's this prediction of the future, right? Like, I am anticipating that this player will jump off the ledge. I am anticipating that the car in front of me will turn right. Stuff like that. The event hasn't happened yet. You haven't seen anything that shows them doing it, but you think they might do it. And then reactions by comparison are something that is performed in response to an event. The doctor hits your knee with the little triangle rubber tool, and your leg moves over. The car in front of you, their red lights turn on the rear of their car, and you hit your brakes and you slow down. These are in response to what are called stimuli. And so this is kind of the crux of the conversation today, right? Is kind of delineating between these two ideas and elaborating on them. So anticipation is like everything in terms of relevancy when it comes to learning this game, because frankly there's quite a few things in this game that can't be reacted to, and the only real way to deal with the moves is to anticipate them. And this is one of the reasons why, like Mango, he's kind of getting up there in years. He's not like some 18-year-old spring chicken, but he stays on top of the competition in part because his experience allows him to anticipate a great many deal of situations, and this is kind of the ultimate edge, right? Like, if you know what your opponent is going to do next and you anticipate that, it's essentially one of the big recipes for success, I think. Okay, so let's move on to our next slide here. Reactions and anticipations don't need to be separate. They don't need to be like enemies, like you don't only react or only anticipate. And so, like, I'll give you an example scenario here. So let's say that we are expecting a fox to do a side B in neutral, right? We're expecting that. So we're going to anticipate that action. So what do we do to anticipate the action? Well, in this case, we would just hold shield, right? Like, we're expecting it. And then so let's say that the fox does the action, but they don't do side B, right? They don't do side B. And they run up and grab you. And it's like, okay, well, I held shield, and I anticipated the side B, but it didn't happen. So what do you do now, right? Like, it all kind of feeds in on each other. Or in this case, like, if fox does side B, your shield, well, you were already blocking. You anticipated that what action would happen, and then you react with a grab or an up smash out of shield or any sort of such punish. And that's kind of like how all this stuff works together, right? You use your anticipation to fuel your decision making, and then when the time comes to make that decision, you have to actually use your reactions to have it come. Poorly timed reactions or poor decisions in terms of timing can make good anticipation valueless. So before we can really go any farther, we're going to have to break down how reactions work and how interactions work in this game. So in Ultimate, you can't actually react to something frame one. And in fact, it actually takes a great deal of time for reacting to happen. So this little graph here provides you with a good example of what to expect here. So frame one, let's say that you see someone do this Little Mac forward smash, for example. Frame 15, after you see that action happen, is the first time that you're actually capable of giving the game an input. And then 5 frames later, minimum, sometimes 6, the game will actually process that input, and the engine will actually do the thing that you asked it to do. And this is because the game has a native and inbuilt 5 frames of latency that can't be avoided. And so like a good rule of thumb whenever we're doing with all this is like, if you want to react to something, you need at least 20 frames in advance. Now, this doesn't always hold true, but it does generally speaking. Now, that's only on visual stimuli. Let me elaborate a little bit on that. So there's multiple ways to react to options in this game. The most common, I think, is visual, right? You see something happen. But there's also audio cues, and there's also what are called kinesthetic or touch stimuli. And so, like, whenever you hear a player refer to, like, oh, you know, I always turn rumble on, or like, hey, you got to plug that back in, I need rumble, it's not like a placebo effect. As you can, if you look closely here at some of the numbers on my screen, you'll kind of notice that kinesthetic is actually like the best way to respond to an attack or a response. You physically, you are wired to respond the quickest to a touch-based response. So playing with rumble on is actually to your advantage, because like the way that your nervous system is wired, you will respond the quickest to that input. Now, that's 9 frames. Right next to that is audio stimulus. It's at 10 frames, so they're really kind of interchangeable. And this is why playing with sound on or off is such like a big deal. You should always prefer to play with sound on. And there's a lot of matchups that change dramatically if sound is not on. So for example, like Snake pulling a grenade, the visual cue is not very impressive, but there's an audio cue. Or if you tech in place versus tech roll, there's audio cues there that can slow down your decision making if you can't actually hear the sound itself. Then of course we have visual stimuli at 15 frames. This is kind of the standard, right, that everything else goes off of. And then you have the average delay added from monitors. Thankfully this is fairly negligible, at less than a frame. Sometimes it may like tip the scales and end up being a frame, but that's usually not the case. And then of course we have the average input delay for the engine, which is on average 5 frames, but depending on the controller you're using, it can actually be as high as 6 frames or more. In order, it's wired GameCube controller, and then wireless Pro controller, and then wired Pro controller in terms of delay. It starts out at like 5.4 frames, and it kind of goes up to like 6.5 or something. Let's move on. So we're going to do a little exercise. I have a link on my next slide for a website, and this website is designed to showcase the difference between these subjects. So we're going to talk about simple reaction time and complex reaction time. So what is simple reaction time? It is defined, as here as it says, the minimal time needed to respond to a stimulus. And so like this is, again, the doctor is hitting your knee and your leg pops up. You see red lights and you hit your brakes, right? And this is a simple raw reflex, right? You're not making a decision. You say, as soon as I am stimulated, so to speak, I'm going to do something. And so like this is where anticipation is very important, because simple reaction time is the quick kind. And the only way you can react simply to something is if you make a decision ahead of time, like I'm only going to do this decision. Now let's compare that to complex reaction time. This one's a little different. This is the time that it takes you to respond to the correct stimulus when presented with a number of options. And this is a lot slower. And the reason why it's slower is because your brain has to like make a decision. You can't just say, okay, well, the red light turned green, I hit the gas. You can't. It's not that simple. It's the red light turned green, but what if it goes from red to flashing yellow and it's not your turn yet? Or, for example, if you are lead strapping someone and you are in position to grab their neutral getup, but you also have to be careful for them to roll behind you. It's going to slow you down while you watch them to wait to see what option they do. And that's kind of where all this comes into play. So let's look at this website here. I have a fancy in-screen thing. We're going to participate. So I'm going to go through this exercise for the sake of discussion. So I'm going to click on it. Uh-oh, gotta go back. Go back. There we go. So we're going to click on it. All right. You can read the prompt here. It says simple versus choice reaction time. This is a psychological test, essentially. It's like a little do-it-yourself to like prove that the science is sound. If it'll work for me. Come on, come back. Come back. Maybe I should just go to the website itself. copy. That's okay. I can just open the tab. There we go. All right, a little messy, but we'll make it work. So let's go ahead and start. The task is simple, right? There's a blank white box, and when it fills with the X, you press the space bar. Seems pretty simple. And while we're doing this, I'm just going to sit here and participate in this test, essentially. It's like, kind of think of like when you go to the carnival and it's like a test your strength kind of deal. You get your own personalized numbers on what your reaction times are, because it will aggregate your score that you get by doing it. And I'll actually give the crowd an opportunity to try this as well, just in case somebody thinks that they're, hot stuff and their reactions are so much better. They're not some old geezer yet, right? Like, my reactions are superior. This, I guarantee you, it's very much so not the case. You're welcome to try, though, right? And that's what I encourage. And I'll post a link to this as well in the chat. And so, like, even with this, my response time is at 300 milliseconds, or 0.3 of a second. And that's a little higher than it has been in the past. Usually I average around 250. It's probably a little high because I'm talking while I'm doing it. But in general, that's about, it's a little on the high end, but that's about where you get. So the second task is the choice task. This one is, there's 4 blank boxes, and you have to use the X, the C, the B, and the N key to correctly choose the one that you showed up. And this is where I think the test starts to get really interesting, because you get to start seeing, like, it counts your errors as well as how fast you click on it, so you can't just click on it as fast as you can. Accuracy is also valued. And for this one, I'm actually going to ask for a volunteer. So if someone from the crowd would like to come forward and try. Is anybody interested? Anybody? How about you, Micah? Let's get up here. All right, so it's very simple, right? It's very simple. All you have to do is you put your 4 fingers like this, and then you just click on whichever screen it asks you to press. Here we go. Uh-oh. Space. There we go. Hit space again. You see how it's like, okay. And while he's doing this, I wonder if we'll get an opportunity for him to input one incorrectly, because it's actually quite demeaning. The game will assume that you don't know what you're doing, and will give you the instructions again, like, are you sure you're meant to press that button? Like, there's only 4, here's how you do it, try again. But that's only if you make a mistake, right? But there's a downside. If you go so slow that you never make a mistake, it actually slows your reaction time down even more. And so there's this trade-off, right, of like, how fast are you willing to go if it means making a mistake? And this is the perfect kind of experiment to showcase that. You'll have them do it, 15, 20 times. Okay, so this is really good, right? Obviously, the 306 millisecond is like my response time, and the 335 is his. He's not distracted like I am. So, like, these are really great numbers. In fact, I'm willing to have a second volunteer come up if anybody else is interested in trying. Anybody? This is the interactive part. Come on, Darren, give it a shot. So that was really good. Like, 335 complex with 0 mistakes is uncommon. I'm going to say it right now. It's uncommon. Okay, so same thing, right? Go ahead. So we have a second. You're going to hit the space bar whenever you see an. Yep. Let's reset this web page. No, this is simple. This is simple. So all you're going to do is press space bar whenever you see the X pop up. That's it. That's right. So now we're going to see some different reaction times come in. And while he's doing that, I'm going to take the link for this and post it in the chat if anybody's interested. It's a little mundane, right, to watch someone click on an X, but this has a lot of value. The point of showing all this is that it's very much so an individualized number. These are your numbers. It's very personalized. Go ahead and give it another shot. So you're going to put X and C and then B and N. And it's the same thing, right? But now there's 4 options instead of 2. So like 225, you know, if I got that score, I'd be like, man, I took a lot of a monster today, you know, I'm feeling good. You know what I'm saying? I'm playing good. That's kind of the response anybody would want is 225, 230 milliseconds. It's on the low end. On average, I'm going to say that simple reactions you'll find across the board is about 250 milliseconds, and complex is about 340, possibly a little higher, with no mistakes. I'm still hoping we get to see the you did something wrong prompt. Maybe that's just me because I'm old and washed, but it does exist for people like me who make mistakes on this part because it goes too fast. Okay, so looking at the difference between these two, the numbers are pretty similar overall. They're not the same, but you'll find that if you do this yourself, you are not going to beat these numbers by very much, if anything. These are very universal numbers. The moral of doing this experiment is to highlight that when you have to make choices with your reactions, it slows your decision making down. And the way this relates to fighting games is like the reaction time. Like there's options that you might be able to punish it with 250 milliseconds of reaction time, but not with 330. And so you've got to take risks, right? Like if I'm going to punish this, I have to hard commit to punishing it. And this is why a lot of times at top level, you'll see someone like do a ledge trap and they'll do a forward smash, but they rolled behind them. It's like, why would you forward smash? They rolled behind you. It's because they didn't know that they rolled. They just said, oh, you moved, I'm reacting. Where's my next slide? Here we go. Okay, so reacting to defensive options. And this is kind of where I'm going to start introducing some gameplay a little bit. So this chart is very useful. I have most of the major defensive tools that are universal to the engine in this game, as well as some vulnerability frames for them. They're not universal for everything, but mostly they're universal. Generally speaking, no matter what character you're playing, these are going to be the numbers for these. Not always, but usually. And so I want you to kind of explain, you know, what's going on with all this. So the total frames is how long it takes for the action to occur. The vulnerable frames, the listed ones, are the ones where you can actually hit them. And then the third category is, can you punish? You know, and this means like, can I react to me seeing them do it, or do I have to predict that it will happen? And there's a really easy way to showcase this, right? So like for example, spot dodge cancel is 20 frames, which means that if someone did spot dodge cancel jab as, let's say, you know, Mario, it'd be like 20 frames for spot dodge and then 23 frames for the move itself. And so let's go to the game for this. I'm going to need a volunteer. If you want to go ahead and plug in to my system that's up front here and take a seat in front of the monitor. We're actually going to try this, right? Like this is the interactive part of the show. And then you won't need any controls. It's super simple. All right. We got a victim. Turn this down a little bit. Okay, and so we said Mario, right? Or let's choose someone that has a frame 5 jab. Like, whose jab is frame 5? Roy? Is his frame 5? Okay, so let's do Roy. And we're going to do someone with a frame 6 grab, like Inkling. So I'm going to let you be the Inkling, and I'm going to be the Roy. And we're going to stand in front of each other. And so what I'm going to do is at some point I'm going to spot dodge, and then I'm going to jab. And I want you to only grab me after I spot dodge. Does that make sense? So you have to grab me before the jab hits you. And the point of this is that like it should be very difficult, if not impossible, because 20 frames to react and then frame 6 grab is 26 frames. Make sense so far? But for me, spot dodge cancel is 20 frames and then jab is frame 5 for 25 frames. So I should be consistently beating or trading your grab on reaction. Okay, let me give you some control. And then just make sure that when you grab, the grab happens, right? You got your grab button. right? Okay, good. You got a grab button. So we're going to stand in front of you, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here, and we're going to hang out. And then I want you to react to the spot dodge with a grab, and we're just going to see what happens, right? And I'm going to jab afterwards. It's going to be exactly like that. Okay. So we're just going to sit here for a little bit, and I'll talk, conversationally while we're doing it so that you can't just entirely focus. Right? And so, like, it just grab me, man. It's not so hard, right? You just got to wait, though. I got to spot dodge first. And if you can't, oh, okay, good job. So we're going to see. We're probably going to trade back and forth a couple of times. You might get it sometimes. You might not. It's okay. It's frame 26, right? It's super reactable. Oh, I didn't do anything, right? Just react, right? It's frame 25. It's so slow. Nice. It's on the gameplay right now, right? Oh, here we go. Yeah, good catch. Thanks for reminding me. Okay, now everybody can watch. Let's do it again. Okay, so this is simple reaction time. Like, sometimes he's able to grab me, but sometimes he gets jabbed. So this is kind of right on the borderline of what's dealable with. And there's that 20-frame magic rule, right? So now we're going to change things, and we're going to do something that forces a complex reaction. And so here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to force him to make a choice. We're going to force him to make a choice. And the choice is this. I want him to choose to react to my spot dodge jab, or to react to my jump, and then to not grab, right? And so he has to wait. If I jump and he grabs, he loses. But if I spot dodge and jab and he doesn't grab me in time, he also loses. And so this is going to make the difficulty of the exercise much more difficult because he's got to consistently make a choice, and he doesn't know what I'm going to do. He has to react and then make a decision. And like with the exercise, now that he's using complex reactions, it's going to slow his decision-making down. So let's just do this again, right? We're going to do this exercise, and I only want you to grab me if I spot dodge and not grab me if I jump. If you grab and I jump, you lose. So don't do it. I'm only jumping. So I'm doing spot dodge, jab, and I'm doing jump. And so your goal is to grab me out of my spot dodge jab or to do nothing if I jump. That's all you're doing. You're doing nothing or grabbing. It's very simple, right? Oh, someone's listening to my controller. That's okay. Maybe it was a fluke, right? Maybe it was a fluke, right? Maybe it was a fluke. Okay, so I'm not getting grabbed anymore, right? Like, in order for him to slow down enough to not make a mistake when I jump, his reactions are no longer good enough to beat this. And that's kind of like the point, right? So let's put this in a more realistic scenario, right? So if we're at the ledge, and you grab the ledge, a B, there you go, and I'm going to save it. There we go. Nice, so now we can stay like that. So let's say that I don't know what you're going to do at the ledge, right? And you have if I say that I know you're going to do a neutral get up, I want you to neutral get up off the ledge and then hold shield. So go ahead, just do a neutral get up and then shield. Yep, that's exactly what it should look like. So do it again. Yep, good. And then I'm going to try to react to that. And you tried to block after that, right? A little early. So this window, I have enough time to react to this button And here's a general rule of thumb for offline. In general, as long as your move is frame 12 or faster, you should be able to react to a get up off of the ledge with a button and true punish it, because there's a 1 frame window in between neutral get up and holding shield. And you can actually see that here if we hold in the frame by frame. So let me turn on the invincibility. So check this out. So I'm invincible. I'm invincible. And then right here, this is my vulnerable frame. The next frame is the beginning of his jab startup. Uh-oh. 2, 3, 4, 5. So, and every character is like this. They have 1 frame where they can be punished. So in this section right here, when he does neutral get up, because my jab is faster than frame 12, I should be able to consistently react to watching him doing it. Except, I'm not actually, I don't know he's doing neutral get up. He's just moving, right? And so like in this case, if you do neutral get up and roll, we're going to do the same situation, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to do, let's say, a forward tilt. Okay, a forward tilt. Nope, not a forward smash, forward tilt. True. So let's do down smash. Let's do down smash. So here's what I want you to do. When I get off the ledge, I want you to use a down smash. So we're going to flip it. So go ahead and get up. And then put your character right there. Turn around. Turn around. Turn around. There you go. Okay. So when I get up the ledge like this, I want you to do down smash with the C stick. Can you do that? Yeah, go ahead and demonstrate that for me now. Okay, good. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay. So again, I'm going to get up and hold shield, and I want you to react to me getting up with down smash and hit me before I can block. Don't charge it, just let it go. There you go. Do it again. I can't shield there. That's a true punish. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to neutral get up, or I'm going to jump. And I only want you to down smash if I neutral get up. So like everybody can see that his reactions are visibly slower because he's waiting to see what I'm going to do first. And this is kind of the crux of what we're talking about when I refer to kind of complex versus simple reactions. So if you're like, man, I'm consistently late on this punish, like you want to check and make sure that you're actually doing a simple reaction versus a complex one. We only went through spot dodge cancel and like neutral get up as examples, but all of these numbers that are on my screen are represented. Here, let me put that back up there. All these numbers on my screen are representative of these situations. So like spot dodge cancel, you really can only anticipate it. And then these other options, roll in, tech in place, tech roll in, missed tech, these are all reactable, but only if you have a move that has a startup of the listed number. So like tech roll in, you have 20 whole frames to react to it. But tech in place, you only have 6 frames. Let's move on. Unreactable options. So this is assuming that you are reacting to a visual cue, right? Anything under 20 frames is unreactable. And I've kind of compiled a brief list of moves that are all under frame 20. And the goal is that I am going to showcase that these moves are actually, you can't react to them the same way. And like, it's the same situation that we were doing, right? Like spot dodge, jab, and jump. We were mixing that situation up. These are the same things. You might be able to raw react that a button is happening, but you're not going to be able to raw react to these moves happening. And so like essentially like it's kind of a myth that you have to like only whiff punish with some of these moves, because you can absolutely throw them out and your opponent can't react to them. Because again, it's under 20 frames, right? You have to anticipate these actions, unless they charge the smash attacks, of course. Okay, let's talk about burst ranges. So burst ranges are really important in this game because moves are not just like you press the button and the move comes out. A lot of moves have a travel time and they go places. And we're going to focus on Robin for this one because of how good an example it is. So I have 2 images on my screen. One of them is Robin's Thunder and the other one is also Robin's Thunder, but they're different frames. If you look at the top one, you'll see that Robin's hand is red. This is the first frame of Thunder. It's frame 8. Now, you can't react to moves that are less than frame 8, but this move travels. Now, the second picture is the actual first frame that you can block to this move. And if you'll notice, the red dot is no longer on Robin's hand. It's now like 17 feet in front of him. So this is like why zoners are so good on a default level, is that like, yeah, Robin is way over there, but really you can't block this move unless you're that far away from them. And what this is showing you is the effective unreactable burst range of this character. Does that kind of make sense to the group? Okay, so here's some other ones. Frame 20 of Falco Blaster. If you'll notice, it's not quite as far as Robin's, but it's still pretty far. Charge Shot, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Samus's burst range is not that big. Charge Shot does not go very far by frame 20. And most of the time that people get hit by it in neutral, it's because they were running and couldn't block in time. But they actually could have reacted if they were walking. And Wolf Blaster is kind of the same. Like, you can't just shoot Wolf Blaster against someone who's doing nothing. It doesn't work. It has no range. The only range it really works is point blank. Now, burst range for melee characters is kind of the same, actually. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take their farthest reaching move, and then we're going to add some frames of their initial dash to it. And that's what these images on the right here are for. So, for example, the top picture, we see Mithra and Terry. And Mithra's dash attack is frame 9. So she can run towards Terry for 11 frames, or 10 frames, and still dash attack after that, and the dash attack cannot be reacted to. And so, like, even though her dash attack is only like 3 or 4 squares big, in reality, it's more like 7 or 8 squares when you really think about how far away you have to be to react to her approach. And, you know, at the bottom you can kind of see there how, even though the numbers are different, she'll kind of reach just as far. And every character has this unreactable burst range, right? The last slide I have for the group is reacting to real-world stimulus. So this one is the most useful whenever you are anticipating an action and you know what your opponent's going to do next, and you just need to react as fast as possible. Like I mentioned earlier, Ultimate's engine natively will add 5 frames to any response you do if you get your reaction stimulus from the game. So if you see or hear or feel rumble from the game, it's going to be slow because that action actually happened like 5 frames prior from your opponent. And so this is where listening to your opponent's inputs can make sense, because what you can do is if like I know that my opponent is going to do something, as soon as I hear that controller click, I know that they've done the input. Now, I don't know what input they did, if any, but if I am confident that I know what their next input is, I can use that audio stimulus to allow myself to react to things that are otherwise unreactable. And this includes berries as well. So, like, for example, if I down throw somebody as Rob, and I want to mix up between, like, okay, I'm going to jump up and up air if they mash, or if I'm going to charge up smash if they don't mash. And I could just bury them. I can just sit there. I can listen. So if I bury them and I hear this, like nothing, well, they're not mashing. Like, I can hear their controller. Controllers are loud. Now, if I bury somebody and they do this, like, there's such a noticeable audio difference that you can make a strong inference as to whether they're going to pop out quickly or not. And you can really use this effectively with characters that have a berry. Although it also works for characters that you have a grab. For example, if you grab a character and I don't hear mashing, I can just sit there and pummel and get like 5 or 6, 7, 8 or 9 pummels. You're not mashing. Why would I stop? You know, mash already. I'm just going to sit there and add damage until you mash out. Little stuff like that, right? But you can do this at the ledge as well. Like if you think that someone's going to neutral get up, you can get a stronger punish than normal if you anticipate the sound of their control stick inputting the neutral get up. And of course, I think Pro Controller actually has an advantage here because like this is a GameCube controller mashing, right? And then this is a Pro Controller mashing. Humongously noticeable difference in terms of like whether you can react to somebody's controls. Although if somebody's pressing buttons on the Pro Controller, like it's still very loud, so it's mostly just the control stick where that difference has happened. Okay, I am done. Thank you for your interest and you know, quiet participation. And at this time I'm going to kind of open up the floor, and if anybody has any questions over what I was talking about, I'll be more than happy to answer them now. For first in person, and then if anybody has any questions on the stream, just kind of put them in the chat and I can answer them while we're here. Does anybody have anything that they would like to talk about on this subject that they're confused by? What's up? Is it just straight up better to have rumble on? It would seem that way, right? Like, it's always more preferable to have rumble on. But since rumble and audio stimulus are so similar, really it's just like, if you're not going to have rumble on, you better have audio. So like if you go to a major, for example, you can kind of ignore a lot of audio cues if you have rumble. But think about this, like, you don't always receive a rumble cue for everything the game does. Like, I don't get a rumble notification when Snake pulls a grenade, but it makes a very loud and obnoxious chink sound, right? So they're not always interchangeable. Hopefully that answers your question. Anybody else? Of course. Right, so even if you chair early, because it lasts so long, there's a reason why you see those moves used to ledge trap all the time. It's because it's really easy, to the point of being free, rather. In general, most disjointed moves last for 2 frames, and a lot of smaller moves are what are longer lasting. 2 frames is kind of the average in the game. Like, if I had to guess randomly how many frames a move was out for, it would be 2 frames. Which is pretty difficult to to 1-frame somebody on reaction with. It is possible. And I can go back to the game for this one. Hold on, let me turn the volume down of the game a little more so it's not quite so obnoxious. I think it's like really stupid, like 13 frames active. It's very active. It's very active, and this is one of the situations where the frame data like really can enlighten you. So let me do an example. Let's say I'm trying to think of a character that has a suitable button. I think Ike forward tilt is a good one. Well, that one's actually active for 3 frames, so let me do... Is it only 2 frames? His down smash has 3 frames. Yeah, okay. So, like I said, 12 frames is kind of the upper limit on what's really reactable with a button. And so if we put Inkling on the ledge, give you control back. So go ahead and sit on the ledge. Uh-oh. Do you need to get reconnected? You good? Oh, I bet it's using my controller. Hold on. Try now. Anything? There we go. Okay, so get on the ledge. Okay, and then I want you to do neutral get up and then shield. Right, so I'm going to do a forward tilt on reaction when I see that happen. And I'm going to try to hit you. So it's only a 2-frame move, but because it's reactable, I can like train my hand's muscle memory to input the move at the same time. Now, let's say I did down tilt, right? Instead, down tilt's a bit of a faster move, so it's going to require a different timing. And so even though I'm still hitting them, my hand is having to memorize a different timing, because now I'm a little early instead of being a little late. There we go. Let's try jab. There we go. So like you can see that my hand's not really used to the jab timing, because jab's like frame 4, frame 5. It's very different than frame 11, frame 12, frame 10. But yeah, so like even moves that aren't very active can very consistently 1-frame somebody. And so like even under pressure, you know, when you add moves like Game & Watch Chair that lasts forever, it becomes effectively free, and you don't have to have any idea when they're getting off the ledge. You just push the button and it's active forever. So. That's right. Well, yeah, and so it'll kill for 2 frames, and then it'll send them off stage and reset for the other 10 frames. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It also makes it very easy for Game & Watch to tech chase. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay, I think that's it for me. Thanks everybody who tuned in. Feel free to like and subscribe to the Twitch channel. These will be a weekly affair. Thanks for watching, everybody. See ya.